Hi everyone, this is We On. I'm Archit Seshadri. Thanks for joining us. In this special broadcast, we'll discuss the growing tension between India and Pakistan. And to help deconstruct this special issue, we have a guest in our studio, Mr. S.D. Muni. He is a former diplomat as well as a current distinguished fellow at the Institute of Defense Studies and Analysis. Thank you so much for joining us. We appreciate that. We'll get to you in a moment, but first we start with Pakistan, where the Prime Minister Nawaz Sharif has appointed 22 parliamentarians as special envoys to highlight the issue in Kashmir. This is to go around to different parts of the world. Sharif's announcement comes just days after India says that it would engage in talks with Pakistan, provided they end the cross-border terrorism. Now, Sharif made these remarks on the 50th day of unrest in the Kashmir Valley. This all broke out after the killing of Hizbul commander Burhan Wani by security forces. So, Mr. Moni, let's start with this topic. You know, the fact that Pakistan has now come out and saying they're going to be sending out these 22 special parliamentary members to different parts of the world. What do we make of that, and why now?
Well, obviously, they have always tried to exploit the Kashmir situation. They don't want this fire to settle down. They have always kept the issue alive, though they know very well that there is nothing they can do about it. And therefore, I think they are trying to exploit the situation, largely because Pakistan has a lot of internal tensions. And you know, Nawaz Sharif as a Prime Minister is under tremendous pressure, partly because he has run into some problems with Panama Papers and his credibility is eroding. And secondly, the army doesn't want him to have anything to do with India policy. And therefore, there is a pressure on him. They are calling him that he is very soft to India, that he is very friendly with Mr. Modi. And I think he has been forced almost. They have been blaming him that he has not reacted strongly against Mr. Modi's Balochistan statement. And he has been forced, therefore, to send these 22 special envoys or MPs. Now, what MPs would do as a special envoy remains to be seen, because they are not crafted into diplomacy, they are not crafted into the details and nuances of the Kashmir dispute or controversy, but he wants to show that he is doing something and he is actually putting India under pressure, and that's why the whole effort is. Let us see what these guys go and do in various capitals and to what extent they can even salvage the Pakistani position, which every day is deteriorating because of its own record on terrorism, not only vis-a-vis India. You know, it's surprising that people are not taking note of the fact that Pakistan has run into problems with three of the South Asian countries. India is one, of course, which is perennial, but Afghanistan on the same count of terrorism, and Bangladesh again on the same count of fomenting their internal trouble and encouraging the jihadis and extremists. So, there is a lot for Pakistan also to explain if the countries which these special envoy visit raise these questions. So, let us see how it turns out.
And what about the global impacts of that? How do we think some of the other countries, once these MPs are deployed out, what type of a global response are we expecting?
I don't think the world is either unaware or unconscious or worried much about, because they know that India-Pakistan's dispute on Kashmir is a very long one, that Pakistan has always kept the issue. They are the one who started by sending their irregular forces in Kashmir in 1947. The United Nations was involved in it. But over the years, the United Nations has said you should settle it bilaterally through talks. At Kashmir, in Shimla agreement, the Pakistanis agreed that we will talk bilaterally and resolve it peacefully. And every time there is some justification which the army needs, that we have danger from India. And therefore, as I said earlier, they want to keep the Kashmir issue burning all the time, knowing pretty well they did Kargil war, they had 1965 war, they had 47, 48, 4 conflicts, 4 full-fledged wars, all kind of terrorist activities, cross-border activities. They have not been able to get to what they want. Therefore, they want to keep the issue alive, and say that, look, we have a problem from India, and therefore army must have a dominant role in Pakistan's internal politics. Because if you have a threat from outside, if you tell your people that you have a threat from outside, the people will accept the army's major role in politics. That is what Pakistan is today.
All right, we'll continue our conversation with you in just a moment, but moving on to another story involving the same issue. Jammu and Kashmir Chief Minister Mehbooba Mufti slammed Pakistan and separatist leaders on Saturday for fueling the unrest in her state. She met with India's Prime Minister Narendra Modi in New Delhi to discuss the situation in the valley. WION's Anis Zargar explains.
Launching a scathing attack on Pakistan, Jammu and Kashmir Chief Minister Mehbooba Mufti accused certain elements in Pakistan of instigating violence in Kashmir. The Chief Minister also blamed Islamabad for creating trouble in the valley.
अभी पिछले दिनों में जबकि कश्मीर में इतने हालात खराब हुए और पाकिस्तान खुल के उन हालात को ठीक करने के बजाय उसमें कोशिश कर रहे थे ज्यादा प्रोवोकेशन हो, तो ऐसे में हमारे होम मिनिस्टर दोबारा पाकिस्तान चले गए साक का जो समिट है उसको अटेंड करने के लिए, पर बदकिस्मती से पाकिस्तान ने फिर एक सुनहरी मौका अपने हाथ से जाने दिया.
She further stated that Modi is keen to finding a solution to resolve the ongoing unrest in the valley. Violence erupted in Kashmir after the killing of Hizbul Mujahideen commander Burhan Wani on the 8th of July. At least 70 people have died and thousands injured in clashes with security forces. Pakistan's statements calling for freedom for Kashmiri people have only added to the tensions between the two South Asian neighbors.
A strict curfew has been put in place in and around Srinagar city against separatist call to march towards Badami Bagh cantonment area. Ahead of the call, Mirwais Umar Farooq has also been arrested and taken to an undisclosed location. Meanwhile, normal life remained disrupted as the ongoing civil unrest in Kashmir entered its 50th day.
Mufti said the long-term solution to the problem can only be achieved through dialogue with all stakeholders, which should include the separatist leaders. Bureau Report, WION.
So to continue and pick up the conversation, we are joined again with Mr. Muni. So we just saw Ms. Mehbooba talking about this meeting with Modi, sort of putting the blame on Islamabad for all the tensions in the valley, now reaching yet another day of unrest there. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, I think there were a lot of hopes that when PDP and BJP alliance was formed, that there would be greater stability in Jammu and Kashmir. Unfortunately, there are issues which have not been resolved, and the kind of hopes in the coalition which is started did not turn out, which really led to what generally is accepted as greater alienation, and some of the youngsters have started what you call the stone pelting, which is obviously encouraged by 2-3 sections. One is, of course, the separatists within Kashmir, those of the old JKLF who are seeking complete separation and independent status from Jammu and Kashmir. They are in a terrible minority. They have never contested elections. They have never seen the strength of what acceptance they have in Kashmir, but they have this agenda. They were very badly fragmented. Occasionally they come together, but there is no unanimity on how to proceed about it. But this is one group. And the 2 other groups are actually in Pakistan. One is some of those Kashmiris who have gone and taken shelter in Pakistan, like Salahuddin or Burhan Wani's mentor, you can call him, and other jihadis like Saeed Hafiz and others who really want to put pressure on India all the time. And the third one is army, where the ISI really encourages some of these elements. So I think all the 3 have got combined, and as I said that somehow the situation in Kashmir drifted towards a greater alienation. All these 3 sections are trying to take best advantage of it and encouraging youngsters to go and attack police stations, go and attack army establishments, the result of which would be that army in its defense would retaliate, the police in its defense would retaliate, and there is violence and there are people affected. Now, this was earlier, even PDP was not fully convinced, and even now I think PDP is talking about having negotiations with separatists. I think that's a fruitless talk, because separatists are not interested in any resolution of the Kashmir problem. They are being paid by Pakistan. The ISI has always supported them. I know how Hurriyat was brought into existence way back in 1993 with the help of the United States of America then and Pakistan put together, where almost more than 240-50 separate groups and individuals were brought together on one forum, and that was called Hurriyat Conference. And this is what the Hurriyat is. Therefore, Mehbooba is talking about that we must talk to all these stakeholders. But I think after her yesterday's statement, it very clearly shows that she is realizing where the problem is. And the problem is in the deepest of encouragement which is coming from Pakistan. As a result, the youngsters are so upset, and they are encouraged because somebody is there, and you have seen in many of these demonstrations they put up the Pakistani flag. Whereas it is very clear that Pakistan is not an option either under the United Nations resolution or under any other resolution, but that's what the situation is. Now, if Mehbooba's statement is reflecting her real understanding of Kashmir situation, I think the center must support her and give her a chance to see if she can handle the situation in Kashmir as a local leader. And also the BJP leaders which are part of the Jammu really join hands and see this happens. So in a way it is a good sign that Mehbooba now has a greater rapport with the center, and hope that this rapport is translated into some of the concrete moves where the alienation is addressed, the real problems of the Kashmiri youth and Kashmiri people. You know, there are problems of employment, there are problems of education, there are problems of uplifting of poor people, though a lot of money is being spent in Jammu and Kashmir. So I think this in a way is a good sign to address the internal situation and also to tell the international community where the real roots of the continuing trouble in Kashmir lie.
And can you also talk about the humanitarian rights issue? You know, recently the Indian government stepped in saying not to use the pellet guns on protesters there as the unrest continues, and instead use the shells. What about that aspect of, you know, sort of curbing of the violence in the region?
That decision has yet to be taken. What Home Minister has said is that he set up a committee about a month or few weeks back, and the committee is about to give its report in which the pellet guns will. Now, the problem of pellet guns is technically the CRPF and the army keeps calling it as the least lethal weapon because it's not meant to kill. But I think many people who are using these guns don't know how to use it, and they are using it almost recklessly. As a result, rather than hitting at the lower parts of the body, and so many youngsters have been blinded, many of have really died out of it, which is a very sad situation, and it is a sad commentary on the efficiency of the security forces to some extent, because they are under strict instructions not to violate human rights as far as possible. Of course, they have to defend themselves, they have to disperse people if they are creating any kind of a chaos. But the lethality which has resulted out of it in the so-called human rights violations, and this is further leading to curfews, further leading to restrictions on the flow of information, on the use of telephones, so on and so forth, which is creating a lot of problems for the people. You know, an area which is under curfew for last more than nearly 50 days. People can't buy their provisions, they can't go to their schools, they can't go to their offices, is not a very comforting situation. And I think, as I said earlier, that the state government and the center must sincerely, genuinely join hands to address some of these issues which are affecting people in a severe way, and further alienating the youth of Kashmir, which you have to deal with decades to come. Therefore, you cannot afford this youth to be alienated from you. They have genuine grievances, maybe they have been provoked by others, but we have to address them. You know, in a family, when children go astray for one reason or another, you have to address, you have to see what their problems are and find a way out.
Thank you so much for that update. Of course, we'll continue that conversation. We're going to take a short break and continue a special report here on WION about India and Pakistan's relations. Stay with us.